Hi everyone, it's Tamara here with another card making tutorial. This card was inspired by the current Lawn Fawn challenge and the need for a really quick card to send off for Christmas. It's all made using die cuts, so there's no colouring required, and I didn't even do any ink blending. It's just cardstock and die cuts. So let's get started. And these are the dies that I'll be using. I was initially going to use this circle die, but end up don't actually adding it to my end card. We've got the Scripty Cheers Die, the Ugly and Bright stamp set for the sub-sentiment, the outside in stitched mug, the snowy backdrop die, and then also the poinsettia die and a couple of sprigs. I'm going to do a white on white for my card base and background. So I've grabbed out some smooth white cardstock and I'm going to use that to cut out the snowy backdrop. As I said, I don't end up using this circle die, so just disregard that. I've now run that snowy backdrop through my die cutting machine, and just using my craft pick, I'm going to just pull it out of the die. Now you can just use your craft pick to push out all the little bits of the stars and the snow from the actual card stock itself, or you can just grab this tool. It's just a little kind of sponge mat and this little roller which helps push out a lot of the actual die cuts from your cardstock. It doesn't push them out all, but it gets quite a few out, and then you can just use your craft pick to go in and finish off the ones that it hasn't popped out. So I did the rest off camera. As mentioned, I'm just using plain cardstock today, so I've grabbed out some red for the poinsettia, some green for the sprigs, and the white cardstock for our stitched mug. And with the red cardstock, I'll also be doing the cheers. So I'll just grab my Spellbinders die cutting machine, and I'll just show you. I'm just cutting down the actual cardstock to fit my little poinsettias because it's much easier to make sure when you're fitting that through this die cut machine. And then that bit was too small for my cheers die, so I've just grabbed out some matching red cardstock to cut that out, and I will be cutting that out 3 times. So we'll just run the poinsettia through our die cutting machine to cut our pieces and set those aside. Now with the Scripty die, because I was going to cut out this 3 times, I'm going to just do it on an angle to make sure I can fit all 3 cutouts on the actual one piece of cardstock. So I'll just pop that first one out. Just be careful as you pop it out that you don't pull any of the pieces away. Run it through the second time. Pop that out, and then we'll run it through the third and final time to get our 3 little scripties. So you've got the perfect size once you've actually angled it like that to get the 3 die cuts out of the one piece of cardstock. We'll then grab our little sprigs in our green cardstock and run that through as well, and set those aside while we do our final run through with the white cardstock and our stitched mug. So we'll grab the top layer, line that up and pop that through, and now we've got all our die cutting done and ready to go. Now to create some dimension without having to use foam tape, I've just going to layer up these 3 cheers die cuts so that we get a nice amount of dimension on our main sentiment. So I'm just going to pop the first layer over the top. Then off camera, I'll do the other layer of glue, and then I'll just show you me putting on the final layer once I've got that glue on. So now we've got that 3 layers of cardstocks built up, and we can set that aside to dry while we work on our other elements. Now to create some dimension in our poinsettia, I've just grabbed out this little kind of rubber mat that I have and these embellishment tools to be able to add a little bit of shape to our poinsettias. Now to get them attached, I'm just popping a little bit of glue on the inside and then just offsetting the smaller of the poinsettias on the top so that we can then put the final piece. I've cut the final middle section out of orange cardstock, and just using my precision glue tool, I'm just going to get a little bit of glue onto that middle section and pop that on to our poinsettia flower so that that is all now ready to go. And then we can start with our card assembly. I've already cut and scored a white card base, and I will have all the measurements in the description box below for this card. I started using my precision tool, my precision glue tool, but you can see it was taking quite a long time for me to get this glued up, so I do the rest off camera, and then once I've got it all glued up, I'll now just attach that to the front of our card front. So I'm just lining that up. I'm just leaving a nice white border around each of the edges, making sure there's no glue coming through any of those die cut pieces of stars or snow, and we'll give that a good press down. So I've grabbed out the Ugly and Bright stamp set and going to be using the sentiment Have a Cozy Holiday Season, but I wanted it to be in two separate parts so that Have a Cozy's up the top and Holiday Season's below. So I've just used my scissors just to cut that in half. So now I've got two separate ones that I'll have cut out for our sentiment. I grabbed out a piece of scrap black cardstock and my anti-static powder tool. Now we'll stamp up our sentiments with the Versa watermark ink. So I end up stamping that twice to make sure we've got a nice impression, so that our white Stampendous heat embossing powder sticks nicely to our sentiment. Just put on 2 sprays of that powder, use my folded piece of A4 paper to get that back into the bottle. Now, to ensure that I don't have any spare little pieces of white heat embossing powder, which can sometimes get even using the anti-static powder tool around your sentiments, I'm just using a slotted paintbrush just to wipe off any powder that might have come loose from the actual sentiments themselves. And I've preheated my heat gun and going to the back first to get rid of any kind of little loose pieces of heat embossing powder. I then go to the front to get that all nice and melted. Now that that's dry, I'm just going to use a cloth to wipe up any of that powder that is still on the cardstock. And I've grabbed out my tonic trimmer just to cut these down to little rectangle sentiment strips for our card front. So I'm just lining that up in the trimmer and trimming that down to size, trying to get my little fingers in there to get that out. So we'll set the first one aside and then trim up the holiday season one to match. So just a little bit of black border at the end and on both top and bottom. So we'll get that final cut done, and now we've got our perfect 2 sentiment strips. So I've decided to pop up our cup because that's going to be the main part of our card. So I've grabbed out some foam tape and I'm just going to cut some pieces to size to prop that up on the front. Just layering those down, and then I just want a couple of round ones just to support that handle once that goes onto our card front. So I'm just going to end up using 3 just strategically placed around that handle, and now I'm going to put that on our card front, just lining that up so it's nice and centered on the card, just using my tweezers to hold that in place so it gives me a better look. And now I'm just going to lay everything out to work out where I want everything to be glued down. Now there will be some pieces that are sitting over that void now that we've got the foam tape on our cup. So I'm just going to also have to add some foam tape to some parts of the Poinsetta, the Sprigs Cheers, and the top sentiment Have a Cozy. So you'll see the pieces that are hanging over that edge. So I'm going to now just grab some foam squares and just cut them down to size in the sections that are going to be overhanging our card. So I'll just pop the 2 on the 2 sprigs. We need a couple at the top of the poinsettia that is going to be on the actual background panel. The end of that S is going to be hanging over, so I'm just going to cut a couple of those squares in half and attach those to the end of the S and R, and also to the end where the cozy word is on our sentiment strip at the top. The bottom one will need all foam squares for that because it will be sitting by itself. Now I've taken all the release paper off camera, but now I'm just going to add a little bit of glue down the bottom for where the sprigs actually sit onto our cup itself, our mug. So I'm just lining up that poinsettia just to work out where I want the second sprig to go, popping on some glue, and we'll get that attached again, just using that poinsettia just to make sure we're getting that in the right spot. I just wanted to make sure I was popping the foam tape up the top so that that sits against the background, and give that a good press down, making sure it's secured on that mug. Now we'll get our cheers lined up, so we need it just to the ears. So I'm just putting the glue on all those ears and just going slightly onto the R. The rest will be overhanging and be resting on our card front. So I'm just going to line that up, and I've grabbed out my T-ruler just to make sure that that is lining up straight. Now we'll get our top sentiment, have a cozy, with just a little bit of glue overhanging where it sits on our mug. And then we'll get our final one with the holiday season just on the bottom. I'm just working out where to place that. Once I've got that down, I've got that secure. And this is the finished card for this tutorial. This was so quick to make, so really great if you wanted to send out multiple cards, or you just need a really quick card to send out for Christmas. I hope you've enjoyed this card making tutorial. If you have, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see any future videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.